Right.
Hi, and welcome to ESTN Teaching Center, brought to you by our sponsors, Ticonderoga Pencil, world's best pencil. Today on Teaching Center, we're going to be talking about a math grading strategy brought to you by a 7th grade math teacher, where she does not put grades on tests. I know it might sound crazy, but let's take a look.
What I was finding when I was handing back tests, the old way where I put a grade on it, is kids would look at their grade, decide whether they were good at math or not, and put the test away and never look at it again.
She is teaching students through the development of her social practices in the classroom that taking risks is okay. Take a look.
What do we do? Why don't you do that right now? This one's supposed to. So to normalize the process of making mistakes is very much my goal for these kids. It allows them to take more risks.
This learning is implicit and it's systemic. It may also be unnoticeable to some students, especially ones that have not developed the key of metacognition. This process, though, will help develop that sense of metacognition in students while they're grappling with the processes of where they're making their mistakes and going back. Also, the explicit learning is when the students are actually able to not make the mistakes and master those mathematical standards. Learning is a process and a product. This teacher is showing that the product of the students is going to be eventually that end goal of mastering the mathematical standard, and the process is what they are doing to get there. And so right now they are grappling with their mistakes, and they're going through some discourse between them amongst themselves and the teacher, and going back and looking at where exactly they made their mistakes and helping one another find out how to not make that mistake again. Some assumptions that are made by the teacher is that studying your mistakes is going to help you learn, and that's not necessarily always true. You have to have that interaction between the student and the student, or the student and the teacher, in order to fix the mistake. Otherwise, they're not going to know how to fix their mistake because they made it in the first place. Yes, she is starting off by scaffolding them and showing them where they made their mistake, but she's not telling them what their mistake was. She also utilized the word learning in her definition of learning. She said learning from your mistakes is learning. She never actually defined that for us in the video. And she's also assuming that every person learns best this way, and some students might not agree with that. Some students might not like verbalizing their mistakes with their peers. They might prefer to do that in private and not in a social community. From the behaviorist theory, these students are being reinforced either positively or negatively by doing these social practices. So what is motivating these students to continue this? The students that like this process are being, the reinforcement is taking place, and they are continuing to learn that they shouldn't be concerned with their grade, that they should be concerned with where their mistakes happened and how to change those mistakes. So once again, their learning and their changing is coming from the implicit learning that their behavior of the normal social practices are being changed. The explicit learning is being reinforced by beautiful. She's saying words that are reinforcing the students to continue this. From the cognitive theory, the cognitive lens shows that students are grappling with the mathematical cognitive abilities like problem solving, which aren't actually proposed problems. They are actually content specific and discipline specific problems where the students are given a mathematical problem to solve. If you look at this as Piaget might look at it, is we might think about what information is being obtained through these structures and procedures and processes, and we can go back again to look at it from the behaviorist theory that they are learning that they are changing the normal social practices. Is conceptual growth taking place within these social practices? From the situative theory, we can look at it from the interaction between the teacher and the student, and the students within themselves. We can look at the discourse that's taking place while the students are working towards finding their mistakes. We can look at the students who are actively participating in their groups and utilizing this experience. We can look at the reinforcement once again that goes back to behavior theory, so you can see some overlapping within the different theories. And would this, like, once again, is this hurtful or is it beneficial to certain students? It is different for every learner. We can look at Dewey and the democratic social relationships that he talks about, and that this will help better the quality of learning, and that the strategy breaks the habit, and the habit is getting a grade on a test and then deciding whether or not you are good or bad at math. We can look at this interdisciplinary, the interdisciplinarity between these different theories and the learning processes that are happening, and we kind of highlighted that on the previous slides with the different with the highlighted words. We can look at the transformation that's taking place across using the multiple disciplines. This teacher really does use different theories to highlight this implicit learning and the interactions and processes that are taking place, and it's constructing new forms of learning, such as that taking risks are okay. We can look at Dewey and look at how experience is playing into the learning, and that the buy-in comes from the positive experiences, which goes back to the behaviorist theory that you have to have some kind of reinforcement. This data can be qualitative or quantitative, it just depends. And that's, we learned from the panel that we saw the other night that experience is what creates that buy-in, and students that are enjoying this experience are buying into it, and then learning is taking place. So you have to have that buy-in. We can look at the new education, the progressive education, that these are new methods, that these are new social relationships and social constructs that are taking place that have not occurred in a classroom, or most likely have not occurred in the classroom before. The organization of these disciplines, such as the math, and just looking at math from putting a grade on it, putting an X and then putting a grade on it, cuts out the imagination of the students. I think Dewey would agree with Piaget that experience is a basic factor for constructive structures, and that the relationship has to look at the part to the whole. So you have the part of the process and then the part of the product, and how the new constructing of the learning is happening together. Thank you for watching Teaching Center. We are out of time. Have a great weekend.